Hola clase, good morning. Today I will give you a quick walkthrough of the verb to be. And that in Spanish is ser. But before we start, in order for you to know how to conjugate ser, you need to know the subject pronouns. So if you already know the subject pronouns, then keep watching. If you don't know the subject pronouns, then you might want to go watch my other video. Okay? So as a quiz, go ahead and write down the subject pronouns for me. Alright, so if you wrote them correctly, here's what you should have. Alright, let's start with ser. Ser. This is the very first verb that you're going to learn, and it means to be. Now, the verb to be in Spanish, actually, we have two words for it. We have ser and we have estar. Okay? So we use different verbs for different circumstances. Today, or in this lesson, we are going to focus on ser. So, just as a general description, you will use ser anytime that you are trying to describe something that is somewhat permanent. For example, things related to your identity. For example, I could say, I am Angela. That's my identity. That's who I am. That's somewhat permanent. Yes, I could change my name, but that would be a lengthy process, right? I could say, I am a teacher. I could say, I am short. So things that have to do with your identity and that are somewhat permanent, you're going to use ser for. Estar, you would use for things that are somewhat changing. For example, let's say that I am really happy today, but I may not be that happy tomorrow, right? So that's a state. So estar, you would use for states of being, okay? So, like I said, let's go back to ser because that's what we're going to be learning today. You're going to use ser for identity. Things like, I am a student. Also, national origin. This is where you were born. So if you were born in the United States, that would be your national origin. That is somewhat permanent, right? I guess you could get a citizenship in another place, but your national origin is the United States. Or if you're born in Mexico, then you are from Mexico. So you would use ser for that as well. You will use ser for definitions. So when we talk about things, we can't talk really about an identity, but we can talk about definitions, as in, what is this? It is a computer. So that's a definition, we use ser for that. Ownership. If something belongs to somebody, in Spanish we don't use that apostrophe s that we use in English. Instead, we use the words to be of. So for example, if I want to say, whose is this book? Who does it belong to? And the book belongs to Patricia. I would say, it is of Patricia. And you learn how to do that in Spanish in a minute. And the last one is telling time. Okay? So that is what we use ser for in Spanish. Now let's learn how to conjugate it. In front of you, you have the subject pronouns. So now let's learn how to conjugate ser. So how would you say I am? The way that you would do that, you would say yo soy. For tú, that's you. Tú eres. That's you are. What about usted? Usted es. Él es. Ella es. So as you can see, usted, él, and ella, they have the same conjugation. Now let's go with the plural ones. What about nosotros? Nosotros somos. Ustedes son. Ellos son. Ellas son. So this I would want you to memorize. Yo soy, tú eres, usted es, él es, ella es, nosotros somos, ustedes son, ellos son, ellas son. Now, if you used vosotros, if you took classes in high school and you used vosotros, that's okay. You can keep using vosotros instead of ustedes, okay? In the class, I will use ustedes because that is the one that I'm used to. And also, it helps because then you don't need to learn another one. In essence, what you have in front of your screen means yo soy, I am. Tú eres, you are. That's the one you would use with your friends. Usted es, you are, but you would use it in a formal situation. Él es, he is. Ella es, she is. Nosotros somos, we are. Ustedes son, you all are. Ellos son, they are. Ellas son, they are, but all females. Let me give you some examples for the things that I mentioned earlier. One of them was identity. So I could say, yo soy profesora. I am professor. So notice that in English we will say I am a professor. We don't need that article in here. It's just yo soy profesora. So for you, if you wanted to say I am a student, you will say yo soy estudiante. Notice that I could also do this. I could just say soy estudiante. What happened with yo? Well, we don't actually need it because if you take a look at our conjugation here, soy goes with yo. It doesn't go with any of the other subject pronouns. It doesn't go with tú, usted, and so on. So even if I don't write this down, the yo, I know that if I'm saying soy, I'm talking about I. Okay? So those would be an example of identity. Let me give you an example of national origin or origin in general. Soy de San Antonio. Soy de Dallas. What about your roommate? Well, for your roommate, that would be a he or a she. Okay, so you would have to say él es or ella es. Example, I would have to say él es de Polonia. He's from Poland. What about, I could also use their name. I could say, for example, Nora es de Mexico. Let's say that I'm talking about people that are passing by. Who are they? Ellos son J-Lo y Ben Affleck. ¿De dónde son? Where are they from? Son de los Estados Unidos. Now, as you can see here, I didn't say ellos. Why? Because I already said it in my earlier sentence. So in this second case, it's also optional. All right? Okay, let me give you an example of a definition. ¿Qué es? What is this? And let's assume that I am pointing to a book. Remember that I mentioned in my last video, we don't have the word it. So in that case, all you need to do, because the book is el libro, that's a third person. So I would just need to say, es un libro. I'm pointing at another thing. Maybe this time I'm pointing at a table. ¿Qué es? Es una mesa. All right? So that's an example of a definition. Let me give you an example of ownership. Let's assume, going back here, that I asked, ¿qué es? Es un libro. Now I'll ask the next question. ¿De quién es? Who does it belong to? El libro es de Marisa. The book is, okay? El libro es de Marisa. So anytime that you're trying to convey ownership, you're going to use ser de. And of course, you're conjugating ser for the book. The book is an el es, but we're not going to say el, right? So we would just say, el libro es de Marisa. And if we all know what we're talking about, you could just leave out el libro, you could just say, es de Marisa. So that's an example of ownership. And I won't give you an example of the time yet, because that you are going to watch another video for. We're going to learn that separately. And for that, I have a whole video dedicated to learning how to say what time it is and at what time an event is. Okay? So, to summarize, what do you need to know in this grammar section? You need to know the conjugation. Yo soy, tú eres, usted, él, ella, es, nosotros, somos, and then ustedes, ellos, ellas, son. So you must know this by heart. And then you can start making sentences. For example, tell me your name. But instead of saying, me llamo, tell me I am, and then your name. Hopefully you said, yo soy, and then you put in your name. Let's say that you're introducing me to your roommate. You could have said, ella es Sandra. Let's say that you're saying where somebody is from. Let's say that you and your roommate are from San Antonio. In that case, you would have said, nosotros somos de San Antonio. Let's assume that I'm asking you what this is. ¿Qué es? And let's assume that I'm pointing to your computer. You would use this one. And you would say, es una computadora. ¿De quién es? So whose is it? And let's say that the computer belongs to the teacher. Es de la profesora. All right, that's it for the grammar explanation. Remember, you need to know this right here. Yo soy, tú eres, usted es, él es, ella es, nosotros somos, ustedes son, ellos, ellas son. Okay? So I'm going to repeat it one more time. Repeat it after me. Yo soy. Tú eres. Usted es. Él es. Ella es. Nosotros somos. Ustedes son. Ellos son. Ellas son. So memorize it, and then you can do the activities listed on VHL. Make sure that when you're watching the videos, you're making notes, not just watching it, because if you're just watching the videos and you're not really participating, you are not going to remember enough. All right, class, that's it for today. Until next time. Bye.